This story happened about 20 years ago. I was still in junior high school. It was the end of August, with only about a week left of summer vacation. I had not even finished my homework, but I decided to go to a nearby municipal swimming pool with two friends. We decided to go to a nearby municipal swimming pool with two friends, even though we had not finished our homework. It was very hot, over 30 degrees Celsius, and the noise from the parking lot construction that had been going on for about a week in the house in front of my house. I couldn't wait for my friends inside my house because of the heat over 30 degrees Celsius and the noise from the parking lot construction that has been going on at the house in front of my house for the past week. I went outside to go to the arcade for an hour or so. Then, a man from the construction site, whom I had become acquainted with, came out of the. He called out to me in a friendly manner from the cockpit of his power shovel. "Yo, kid, you done with your homework?" We exchanged greetings, as has been the routine these days, and I headed to the arcade. I spent about an hour at the arcade, and when I returned home for lunch, the two friends I had promised. I was getting angry with the man at the construction site who had just greeted me. When I asked him what was wrong, he told me that my friends, who had come earlier than the appointed time, had gotten into a power shovel at an empty construction site during their lunch break and were playing a prank. When I came back, they were released, but they seemed to be very upset. They seemed to be very upset and left, saying that they didn't feel like going to the pool anymore. I paid them no mind and went into my house. A few hours later, I heard a lot of noise in front of my house, so I went outside to see what was going on. It seemed that there had been an accident during construction work on the house in front of my house. Beyond the neighborhood ladies surrounding the scene, people in work clothes were hurriedly moving about. "Hey, you all right? Come on. The ambulance is not here yet." Shouting and yelling, people standing around in a daze, people crying and losing control. The atmosphere of the place gave a hint that it was not a simple accident. Peering through a gap in the crowd, I saw a man in work clothes lying on the ground. Surrounding him were several people also in work clothes, and although we do not know the details of the situation, we could see that the man lying down was calling out to the people around him. I did not know the details of the situation, but I could see that the man lying there did not move at all when I called out to him, and that he was bleeding considerably on his work clothes. I vaguely thought that this was a bad idea. Soon after, an ambulance arrived, and the paramedics began to administer first aid. He appears to have suffered considerable head damage, but the paramedics, fellow workers, and a woman onlooker are blocking the way and can only see the man's feet. "I can only see the man's feet," interrupted by the paramedics, fellow workers, and the ladies onlookers. I was watching the events in front of me in a daze, as if I were watching a TV program. I suddenly began to wonder who the man was who was lying on the ground. I remembered most of the faces of the workers and managed to identify each one through the gaps between the onlookers. I couldn't find the face of the man who was always so friendly to me. No way. What had been a matter of someone else's concern just a moment ago suddenly felt familiar. I remember that a strange shiver ran through my body. I wondered how long I had been there, when I was tapped on the shoulder by a friend who should have gone home. An ambulance was running out without a sound. I knew it was no use. I was somewhat upset by the death of a friend whose name I did not know, but I could not leave the scene. I could not leave the scene. The number of onlookers had already decreased, and I was able to grasp the situation much better than before. A man is crying and clinging to Sol, who is lying motionless. A uniformed police officer is trying to pull the man away from Sol, who has been there for some time. The man's head, which was only visible at his feet until a moment ago, gradually becomes visible. At the same time, another uniformed policeman started to cover him with a blue sheet. Somewhere in the back of my head, I heard a voice warning me, "Don't look, turn around, go into your house, don't look." I couldn't look away from it, even though I heard a voice warning me, "Don't look, turn around, go into your house, and don't look." The crying man was pulled away, and I finally saw what used to be his face. His head was like a burst pebble, but there was no longer a face. It was just a reddish-black discolored object. Then, for a moment in the book before the blue sheet covered him, an unbelievable thing happened. It is already not alive. There is no way it can move. Nevertheless, its head slowly began to rotate as if to look at us. Then, its eyes widened. I was so frightened that I turned around and was about to flee to my house when a voice came directly into my head.
Boy.
I panicked and ran to my room at home. My two friends also came into the room with blue faces. I wondered if my friends had seen the same scene, but they did not. I asked them about the power shovel prank. I asked them about it, and they told me that they had entered an empty cockpit, and since the engine wasn't running, they had to start the excavator by jiggling the levers. They told me that one of the levers broke off when they entered the empty cockpit and moved the levers at random. Since the engine was not running, they wrapped it with duct tape and fixed it in place. They left for a while, but when they came back, they found that it had been an accident. They were blue-faced and said it was their fault. For the time being, we kept this matter a secret between the three of us and parted ways for the day. The next day, my mother told me that the man who died was still the man who always called on her. He was the president of a construction company. And, of all people, he was killed instantly by the tip of a power shovel operated by his own son. The police found that he was killed instantly by a direct hit to the head from the tip of a power shovel operated by his son. According to the police investigation, the lever broke while operating the shovel. The police found that the cause of the accident was that the lever broke during operation, rendering the shovel inoperable. No one knows about the prank between the two except the dead man. We felt bad for the man, but we had no choice but to keep this matter a secret between the three of us. But still, if he had died instantly, he would not have moved. But then his face actually turned toward us, and then his voice.
"Hey, kid."
Exactly 1 week had passed since the accident, and summer vacation was finally coming to an end. I forced myself to believe that what I saw and heard at the end of the accident was a kind of hallucination or daydream caused by the vivid scene I saw for the first time. I forced myself to believe that what I saw and heard at the end of the accident was a kind of hallucination or a daydream or something. That night, I was listening to the radio and doing my homework. It was 2 a.m. I was getting sleepy and was about to go to bed when suddenly I heard a noise on the radio. Suddenly, I heard a noise on the radio. I had been able to tune in just a few minutes ago. But now I couldn't tune into any AM or FM station. I wondered if it was a malfunction. I thought it might be a malfunction, so I switched to a cassette tape. I put in my favorite tape, put it on a timer, and went to bed. I put in my favorite tape, set it on a timer, and went to bed. Within 5 minutes, I felt like I had to urinate. I went to the bathroom and went back to bed. From the boom box, a familiar DJ is reading a listener's postcard and laughing. I could hear it. In my dreamy mind, I thought to myself, this DJ is funny. DJ. I put it on cassette before I went to bed, as I should have. Why is it on the radio? I was so startled that I tried to jump out of bed, but at that moment, I could not move at all. I was in Kinbaku. I felt my heartbeat was strangely loud. I looked around the room, moving only my eyeballs. Then, I saw her at my feet. She was standing there, her whole body pale and almost translucent, looking unreliable. Then I heard a noise from the boombox where I had heard the DJ's laughter until a moment ago. I heard a noise from the boombox, where I had heard the DJ's laughter earlier.
"Hey, kid, why didn't you say anything?"
I heard a cutoff. I repeated in my mind, I'm sorry. She climbed onto the bed from under my feet. I continued to apologize frantically, though I was overcome with a heartbreaking motivation. Eventually, I felt Soul climb onto my stomach and look into my face. I was so terrified that I could not even open my eyes. However, Soul kept her face close to mine and did not move. I wondered how much time had passed, but suddenly the weight of my stomach was gone, and when I opened my eyes, I saw in front of me, I saw a stone pomegranate bursting into red, both eyes wide open inside it. It had descended from my stomach and was peering out from my head. I passed out there, and when I came to, it was morning. After all, Soul is aware of the two pranks. And he also resents me for keeping it a secret. I called my two friends, but they both said they had already gone out. I was shivering at home alone, unable to talk to anyone about it. The two friends did not return home that day. There was a big commotion at the two friends' houses, and the police were called to report them missing. The officers came to my place to ask me what was going on, as they were good friends of mine. I was worried about my two friends, but more than that, I was horrified by what happened last night. I told the officer everything that had happened. The officer immediately matched the fingerprints left on the power shovel with my two friends and my fingerprints. The two friends' fingerprints were found, but not mine. The search for my two friends continued in parallel, but they were not found that day. 2 days later, two friends were found. It was a suicide by throwing themselves from a station building, and it seems that they jumped off together. No suicide note or other evidence was found, but it is believed that they committed suicide because they felt responsible. They are believed to have committed suicide because they felt responsible for the series of disturbances that had taken place. Naturally, they died instantly, but only the head was severely destroyed, and the rest of the body was miraculously damaged. The other parts of the body were miraculously undamaged. Was it really suicide? By the way, after I told the police everything, he has not appeared at my place since then. This concludes this story. Thanks for hearing me out.